Good morning, everybody, and thank you for joining today's Microsoft Marketplace Customer Office Hour. My name is Justin Royal, and I am the Marketplace Community Manager here at Microsoft. I'm so happy to have you all here joining us today. This is a recurring monthly event that we have for Marketplace customers. So if this is your first time joining us, just know that we actually have a full library of these customer office hours that you can watch on demand through Marketplace Community. So we're going to put the link up here in case you want to access that full library of customer office hours. It's aka.ms/marketplace customer office hours. And again, we hope you can join us live today, but if you're watching this on demand, you can still engage with us by asking questions on the event page. We will go ahead and get started in just a minute. We will have time for live Q&A at the end of today's session. And today's presentation, I'll be joined by my colleagues Felipe Ospina and Kavita Goyal. So we will go on and welcome Felipe and Kavita, and I will go on and hand it over to you.
Thank you, Justin. Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining today. My name is Felipe Ospina. I'm a product marketing manager for Microsoft Marketplace, and I'm joined by my colleague, Kavita Goyal, senior program manager at Microsoft. And we are here to talk about how you should think about Microsoft Marketplace, not just as a procurement channel, but as a practical FinOps platform, a platform that can help you improve visibility, governance, optimization, and obtain business value from your technology investments. Here is how we will spend our time today. First, I'll ground us on what is top of mind for FinOps practitioners right now. Then we'll connect those priorities directly to Microsoft Marketplace, followed by an overview for new functionality on purchase orders. And after that, I'll walk you through some practical next steps based on where your organization is in its Azure and FinOps journey. And then we'll leave some time for Q&A. So to start, let's look at what FinOps teams are prioritizing today. And the clearest signal that we're seeing is that workload optimization and waste reduction remains #1 priority. This has been cited by 50% of respondents on a recent FinOps survey. And as you can see, that is well ahead of the next set of priorities, including the full allocation of cloud spending, which sits at 30%, and accurate forecasting at about 28%. So what I think this tells us is that FinOps has really matured beyond just simply understanding cloud spend. And now FinOps teams are caring deeply about visibility and allocation. However, the mandate is broader. The mandate is now to optimize spend. The mandate is to reduce waste and make sure that every dollar is driving value for your organization. And that's exactly the lens we want to use for the rest of this conversation. So the second trend that I want to highlight is that FinOps is no longer limited to that traditional public cloud infrastructure. We see that 65% of FinOps teams are already managing add-on scopes of that technology spend, and managing SaaS spend is the highest area. And that's expected to grow 25% over the next 12 months. Now, this is very important because software buying has become increasingly fragmented. As you may have seen within your organizations, there are teams that are buying across multiple vendors, through multiple channels, and under very different billing models. And this is creating complexity for finance, it's creating complexity for procurement, for engineering, and also for business leaders. So the FinOps question has become, how do we bring that sprawl into a more governable, into a more attributable and optimizable model? A third major trend, as we all know, is AI, because the growth here has been just dramatic. You can see in this survey, the share of respondents that are actively managing AI spend rose from 31% in 2024 to 63% in 2025. And not surprisingly, that should top 96% projection for 2026. And that tells us that AI is quickly moving from experimentation into mainstream financial accountability. So as organizations scale AI apps, they scale agents and all of the related services, FinOps has to step in much earlier. FinOps has to help teams evaluate that flexibility, help teams optimize that commitment usage and that time to value. So in other words, AI doesn't really reduce the need for FinOps. It makes FinOps even more important. And before we connect this to FinOps, let me quickly level set on what Microsoft Marketplace is. We think of Marketplace as an extension of the Microsoft Cloud for our partner ecosystem. So the Marketplace is centralizing the discovery and the purchase of Microsoft partner solutions. And those solutions show up not only in the Marketplace store, but also inside Microsoft product experiences like Microsoft Azure, for instance, or Microsoft 365 and Microsoft Foundry. The Marketplace also extends the catalog across distributors and the broader partner ecosystem where customers can purchase Marketplace solutions through those preferred Microsoft channel partners. So while many people think about Marketplace as simply a store, you can think about it as a platform. You can think about it as an adaptable platform that helps connect customers to buy how they want and lets partners sell how they want. And it gives customers the flexibility in how they buy. It gives partners the flexibility in how they sell. And therefore, from a FinOps perspective, that matters because centralization and flexibility together create that opportunity for better governance, that opportunity for better attribution of cloud spend, and better economic control. Now, from a customer value standpoint, Marketplace is becoming an increasingly important route to AI and cloud outcomes. You can see in this slide how Marketplace has over 5,000 AI apps and agents, and it's been leading to a 75% increase in spend from customers and nearly 2 times the growth in AI products sold over the past year. For customers, that means a broader choice and much faster access to those solutions that align with the Microsoft stack. For FinOps practitioners, that means an opportunity to bring more of that growing spend into a model that is easier to track, into a model that is easier to govern and to optimize. So that brings us to the key question here. How does Microsoft Marketplace align to FinOps priorities? At a high level, the goal is very simple. I tend to think about it as every dollar should be trackable, it should be attributable and forecastable. And that is the standard we should be aiming for as software and AI spending continues to grow, and especially for Marketplace, because Marketplace is no longer a procurement footnote. So let's look at some of the FinOps priorities and Microsoft Marketplace. What does that really mean to you as a FinOps practitioner? Marketplace is a platform that helps FinOps practitioners accelerate that impact on tech investments. You can think about it as an accelerator. Marketplace is an accelerator because the goal of FinOps is to identify that return on investment. And as there continues to be this proliferation of resources, more agents, more SaaS, Marketplace becomes key. The reason this matters today is because, as you've seen and are probably experiencing, the technology estate is getting more complex. There's more complexity in the SaaS solutions. There's more AI, more agents, and even so more consumption models. So the FinOps challenge is not just controlling costs, it's connecting that spend to outcomes and helping your organization move to faster ROI. And this is where Marketplace can play a very practical role, because that alignment to FinOps is really an imperative. And Marketplace pairing with Azure is the opportunity to get that ROI and the results faster. So let me walk you through some of these priorities. Number one, teams need to collaborate. And the priority here is collaboration, because FinOps only works when finance, when procurement, IT, and engineering are really operating under a common framework. And Marketplace supports this by aligning to the Azure role-based access controls using the same foundational access that many organizations already trust for their Azure resources. It also provides a single vetted catalog of cloud solutions of AI apps and agents that helps reduce shadow IT and shadow AI while consolidating purchasing across vendors that can reduce waste and duplicating tooling. So collaboration is not just this cultural aspiration, it's really supported by the operating model for Marketplace and how Marketplace is integrated into Azure. Number two, everyone takes ownership for their technology usage. And here the priority is ownership. Because as we know that technology buying is really a team sport, and when no one clearly is owning that usage, those renewals or that spend, that waste grows very quickly. Marketplace can help extend those resources and extend familiar resource tagging patterns that you're using today on Azure, so the same taxonomy you use in Azure can flow through to Marketplace purchases. Marketplace also provides an alignment to SaaS management. And through the SaaS management capabilities and the SaaS management blade, specifically in the Azure portal, those subscription owners can see renewal dates, they can see the plans and pricing terms, and they really own the lifecycle decision, starting from renewals, downgrading, cancellations, instead of waiting for finance to surface any of those events. And finally, in purchase order management and assigning purchase orders, every Marketplace purchase can now be mapped to your purchase orders, as we will see here in a moment with Kavita. So each team's spend is attributable to that team and not buried in a billing group total. Number three, FinOps should be enabled centrally. And the priority here is the central enablement, because one of the most common problems in FinOps is data fragmentation. You have different vendors, different invoices, and different systems, different reporting logic. And you can see here how in this slide, Microsoft Cost Management can act as a single pane for both the first-party products from Microsoft and third-party spend from Microsoft partners. It highlights that central procurement workflows and Azure invoice integration as well, because all of your Marketplace purchases are integrated and consolidated into your Azure invoice. So the benefit here is not just convenience. It's the ability to reduce that reconciliation friction that you're sometimes experiencing. It's improving consistency, and it is giving FinOps a more unified way to manage that spend at scale. Number four, this priority is about deriving business value. And this is not just some headline price, it's really the driver of those technology decisions. And Marketplace supports this through private offers. So you can think about a private offer as a negotiated pricing that is more tailored to commercial terms that your organization is seeking. It also does this through a Microsoft vetted catalog intended to help you reduce the risk in vendor selection. And for a FinOps practitioner, that means the conversation becomes much more strategic. With private offers in the vetted catalog, instead of asking only, what does this cost? You can rather ask, what value will this deliver? How quickly can we adopt it? And most importantly, what is the commercial structure and the pricing that best fits our organization needs? Data should be accessible, timely, and accurate. And here in this priority, it's about data quality and accessibility. FinOps depends on timely and accurate data, especially when spend is distributed across multiple providers, across multiple tools. And with Marketplace, this is all about focus-aligned exports. It's about API extensibility into your ERP and business intelligence systems, and also optimization signals as the ones that you can receive through Azure Advisor to optimize your spend and get signals about your cloud spend on Azure. So the key message here is that Marketplace data should not live in a silo, and it really doesn't. It's something that you can normalize, it's something that you can integrate, and using the broader financial and operational systems that your organization already relies on. And lastly, the last priority is taking advantage of that variable cost model of the cloud. And this is where cloud economics becomes this strategic lever. Marketplace can help you support multiple offer types and also multiple billing structures, including different pay-as-you-go models, annual terms up to 5 years, and multi-year private offers with flexible billing. It will also support the Azure benefit eligible solutions, which are those that help you decrement your cloud spend and decrement your commitment of Microsoft Cloud consumption. And trial to purchase workflows, which help you trial offers before you actually reach production. So now I will hand it over to my colleague, Kavita, who is going to talk about some extremely exciting functionality on purchase orders. Kavita?
Thank you, Felipe. Hi, everyone. I'm excited to be here and share the purchase orders functionality with this community and customers. I'll start with a brief overview of purchase orders. Today, customers receive the Azure and Marketplace spend on a consolidated invoice. Many customers have to manually reconcile their Marketplace spend, creating an operational overload. Additionally, some customers have procurement requirements that require separate documentation. Purchase orders is designed to help customers reconcile their Marketplace purchases. This has several benefits. One of the benefits is this will enable customers to map the Marketplace spend in line with your FinOps strategy. It will also enable you to connect your purchase orders to your preferred procurement system. Let me show you how this works. So, in purchase orders is accessible via the invoice management tab on the billing profile via the Azure portal. It's the same place where you have been viewing your invoices today, and you would be able to see this additional purchase order capability. In the purchase order screen, you would be able to define the PO name, the activity dates, the budget, the description, and the status. These are fields that you would probably have mapped to the information on the purchase order that exists in your system today. This would give you the capability to replicate and mirror that information into the Microsoft system as well. You would have the ability to activate and deactivate the purchase orders as your needs change. This is a simplified view for you to upload the information from your purchase orders into the Azure portal. On the next slide, I will show you how you can go ahead and view your purchase orders. Once you have created the purchase orders in your system, you have the ability to now view all the existing POs in one location. This view gives you visibility into mappings, which we will go into in a little bit. It gives you visibility into the active dates, the status, and also budget tracking. You would be able to see the utilized budget and the allocated budget, as you can see on the slide. In addition, you would have the capability to use filtering mechanisms to quickly get through the list of purchase orders that you want to. So you would have the ability to filter with the purchase order name, with the budget, or with the status. On the next slide, what we see here is how you're going to map your allocations against the purchases. So we have multiple dimensions that allow you the flexibility to map each purchase order against the dimension that makes most sense for your organization. So here there are different mapping options. You have all purchases. You have the ability to map all your purchases against a specific purchase order. You also have the ability to map all your first party spend against a particular purchase order. Similarly, all your marketplace spend related to a specific publisher or software vendor, and also specific to a particular product. So all of these capabilities and flexibility will give you the ability to go ahead and create the allocations as is beneficial to your organization, and give you additional flexibility as you need it. On the next slide, what I'm going to show you here is the way that you're going to create the allocation. So again, this is going to be, you would select the dimension that you want to use, and you could pre-select any of the list of purchase orders that you have already created. You will see a drop-down of all the purchase orders that exist today. You also have the ability to create one if you need to. And then you can add in the details that are required depending on the mapping that you choose. In the cases of a publisher mapping, you would need to provide the name of the publisher. And if you're choosing to do a product level offer mapping, you would need to provide the details of the offer itself. In other cases, you would not need to provide that information. You would just select the mapping, and then all the charges that you get against that particular mapping would automatically be mapped to that particular PO. On the next slide, what we'll see is viewing the allocations. So similar to the view of the purchase orders, you have the ability to view the allocations as well. You'd have the ability to view all the allocations that you have created, go ahead and filter them and get a good view of where they exist. You also have the ability to go ahead and edit the mappings here. You're free to make the changes any time and they will reflect immediately. On the next slide, what you'll see here is you will have the ability to go into the details of each purchase order. So what you're seeing here is for an individual purchase order, you can click on the purchase order details and you'll be able to see all the details that you were being able to see in the grid view. So you will have the status, the allocated budget, the utilized budget, pending charges, which we'll see in a minute, and the dates. So you have the ability to look at each one in line as well and see all the details within. On the next slide, here is where you will see the details for the charges associated to a particular purchase order. So when you come in here, you have the ability to say what were the charges that matched to that particular purchase order. You would have the product name, the invoices, the billing periods, all those details will be visible to you. You would also have the ability to export the details via CSV. And so for each purchase order, you have the ability to export the details, get that in a CSV, and see all the charges that are associated in, so you can work with it in a better fashion. Now, here there is one capability that we're bringing in new here, and that is based on some of the feedback that we've received from this community, and that is basically to have the ability to go ahead and modify purchase orders after invoicing. So now you will have the ability to go ahead and change the allocations or purchase orders up to 3 months after your invoicing. This aligns to how your business needs are. All the time, the information is not procured before the purchase, but now you would have the ability to go in and change this even up to 3 months of invoicing. On the next slide here, you can see that this is managed through charge management. So in the invoice management tab, there is an additional tab for charge management. Here, you're going to be able to see your charges. You will be able to see both your pending charges, which are the charges which are accruing for the current month, as well as up to 3 months, last 3 months, which is around 90 days of invoice charges. So that can, if you're on a monthly invoice, you would probably see 3 billing periods. And if you're on a daily invoice, you probably see the 90 days of invoices. And one of the details here on the next slide that you can see is you have a view once you go into one of those billing periods to see all the charges that were on that invoice. And in this view, you also have the ability to edit the PO. So you can go in line and go ahead and modify any specific charge and change it or add a PO to it. And that would give you the ability to make the change on a prior invoicing period. After that, you would have the ability to go ahead and do reapply mappings as well. So on this slide, this is just the invoice preferences. So all of this is managed by settings that exist today in invoice preferences. You have the ability to enable supplemental documents. Supplemental documents or additional documents in addition to the invoice that you received today. These are going to give you the ability to be split by the purchase orders, or in the case of by purchase orders or invoice sections where applicable. Once you receive your supplemental documents by PO, you would have the ability to see the charges associated with that PO on a separate additional document, which you can use for your needs to go ahead and send that to a publisher if it needs to, or to an internal department. So you have the ability to toggle this anytime you need it, and you have the ability to choose the preference of receiving the supplemental documents if you do so. On the next slide, what you see here is an example of what the purchase order supplements look like. Now, these are very similar to what the financial invoices that you're used to seeing today, but they definitely spread out into multiple supplements. So for the example that I'm sharing here right now, you do have, so for the financial invoice, so what you're seeing here right now is the financial invoice. So for the financial invoice, this is going to be exactly the same. You're still going to see the Azure invoice, you're still going to see the payment terms, you're still going to see the consolidated invoice. There is no changes on the financial invoice, they stay exactly the same. But when we move on to the next slide, you'll be able to see the purchase order supplements. So in the purchase order supplements, you can see that in this example, we had two purchase order supplements. So that one single consolidated invoice got separated into two purchase order supplements and consolidated for the specific purchases related to that purchase order. They provide a separate view, and you have these again get generated by the mapping and the active purchases that you're making, which allocate to those active mappings. So these are documents that are provided to support your internal procurement and reconciliation processes. This does not change anything in relation to the Microsoft invoice that you're receiving today. Okay, with that, so we are in private preview. This is available today. A general availability is coming soon. And if you would like to leverage this functionality, please use the QR code. We will reach out to you for onboarding. And so that's all I have to share today for purchase orders. With that, Felipe, I'll hand it back to you for next steps.
Great, thank you. Super exciting functionality. This is definitely something that will be extremely useful for our FinOps community, FinOps practitioners, and customers in general. So thank you for that walkthrough. So at this point, I want to walk you through this overview and give you a blueprint, this framework, to help you think about how to incorporate Marketplace as a FinOps practitioner. And the right next step for you will depend on where your organization is today. So you can see that this framework moves from low Azure adoption to high Azure adoption. And the central idea here is that FinOps can help optimize that current spend so resources can be reallocated into higher value projects and growth opportunities. So rather than suggesting one universal playbook, I want to show you this maturity-based set of actions that you can take depending on your environment and where you are in your cloud and marketplace journey, because this will help you navigate that growing overlap of cloud SaaS, AI, apps, and agents that we're seeing today in terms of licenses. And it will depend on the level of adoption that your organization has on their Azure journey. So if you're earlier in the journey, the best step is really to test the waters with perhaps trials or low-cost pay-as-you-go offers. This will help you establish better governance while still keeping risk and complexity low. So what's important here, you can help prevent rogue spending. You can deploy only selected pay-as-you-go solutions that have been approved by your organization. You can start evaluating solutions that have Azure benefit eligibility. And most importantly, if your organization does not have a cloud consumption commitment, you can start considering that type of commitment to help you optimize your Microsoft spend and your third-party spend through Marketplace. This next stage is about streamlining that cloud estate through your renewals. So think about it this way. Here, your opportunity is to look for software contracts that are already up for renewal within your organization and ask whether those can be brought through Marketplace to help you improve visibility. It will help you simplify operations, and it will help you strengthen that commitment strategy. So bringing those renewals through Marketplace will help you get a better understanding of all your cloud estate and start managing that through Marketplace. And this is a very practical FinOps move because renewals create those natural decision points. So it's, instead of treating them as administrative events that the solution will renew next month or 6 months from now, you can use those events to reduce that fragmentation and improve that long-term economic alignment for your organization. If you already have an Azure contract in place, an Azure consumption commitment, the next question that you may want to think about is how to fulfill it in a more strategic way. And this step, what this step is doing is that it's suggesting perhaps shortfalls and helping you understand the software needs and evaluating those solutions that will offer that 100% match, so you can use Marketplace to fulfill that commitment and support those infrastructure discounts. And this is where Marketplace starts to become a more deliberate optimization tool rather than just a transactional channel. Now, lastly, if you're at the most mature end of the spectrum, really the goal is to strategically design your next Azure contract. And that means looking ahead at your Azure needs and adjacent cloud workloads. It looks at mapping the Marketplace solutions that offer a 100% match, and then designing your commitment structure for that cloud consumption commitment with that cost optimization in mind from the start. And this is the most strategic posture because it's really treating FinOps, it's treating procurement and Marketplace planning as a connected motion rather than as separate processes within the organization. So if you're thinking about maximizing those investments, I would like to explain how, from a Microsoft perspective and Marketplace perspective, Marketplace can help you decrement 100% of those purchases with no limits. And what we're seeing is that 85% of our customers, even higher than that, the customers that have a contract with Microsoft for a cloud consumption commitment are using Marketplace. And today our catalog has over 4,000 eligible solutions that can help you decrement that cloud spend. Now let's move to a couple of questions that we may be getting from our audience. I'll hand it over to you, Justin.
Yes, thank you, Felipe. Thank you, Kavita, for all that information. Anybody watching live today, feel free to continue submitting your questions. We've got a few in the queue right now. First one up, how does Marketplace help us navigate the growing overlap between cloud, SaaS, AI, and licensing expenses?
Yeah, I think the framework that I just walked you through on understanding where you are in your cloud journey could be a great opportunity for you to assess where in that journey and where, in terms of that growing overlap, your organization is. So think about it holistically, and it's important to understand the inventory of solutions that you have today across the organization. One way that Marketplace can also help you do that is through governance and control, through features like private Marketplace that allow you to control that spend and only enable approved solutions, so you can essentially govern what people across the organization are doing. So that's one way to think about it. Talking to people about Marketplace within the organization and the benefit of Azure eligible solutions with your procurement teams and bringing them on the Marketplace conversation is always a great start for you to begin to control that overlap across SaaS, AI apps, and agents, and channeling those purchases and those software solutions, whether it's through a renewal or a new purchased through Marketplace will allow you to monitor and consolidate all that spend in a single pane of glass.
Great. Thanks, Felipe. Next question. Is there an API connecting the PO management and cost management to any common procurement systems like Ariba or others?
That is on the roadmap. So we do have we are working on providing that ability, but at this moment we don't have that ability right now.
Okay. Next one. How are mature FinOps teams using Marketplace differently from newer organizations? We are just starting out, but I'd like to know what the pros of this are doing.
Yes, I think, again, going back to the framework, if you are very mature as an org versus low maturity, it will depend on how you approach Marketplace. Whether you have a cloud consumption commitment, what we've usually seen is that mature organizations that have already embraced Marketplace to help them optimize that spend through those commitments are through the journey, much more ahead than the ones that are starting to think about it. So that framework and the steps that you can take to assess the actions you can take in that journey and that level of maturity can be a good way for you to begin adopting Marketplace and help you as a FinOps practitioner to using the tools and the capabilities available to you through Marketplace and also through Microsoft Cost Management and Azure and the other alignment that we have with Microsoft tooling.
Got it. Next question. Is this available for EA and MCA-E customer agreements?
Yes, purchase orders is available for both EA and MCA-E customer agreements.
Okay. What KPIs should we track to demonstrate Marketplace ROI?
What we see usually from customers is, one, are we meeting the consumption targets that we have for our cloud consumption commitment? And through those commitments, your organization will get benefits through Microsoft. So attaining those commitment levels will give you those KPIs in terms of discounts, in terms of additional cloud benefits through that consumption commitment. So that's one way that you can think about on how to track success of Marketplace.
Alrighty. Next question. What Azure roles would I need to access?
Yeah, for purchase orders, you would use your existing billing account owner for MCA-E and enterprise admin for EA. If you need additional details about these existing roles, there is documentation on the loan website as well. But those would be the existing roles that you use today to access your invoices on the Azure portal.
Great. Thanks, Kavita. How do I know which solutions are Azure benefit eligible?
Yeah, that's a question that we get a lot. So there are multiple ways you can do that through our web storefront. So in marketplace.com, the web store, we do have a filter for Azure benefit eligible solutions. So you can see those solutions there. And that is also available within the Azure portal. So that's one way for you to search and find those solutions that are Azure benefit eligible. If you have a Microsoft account team, you can work with them to also get a view on the solutions that are aligned to those conversations that you're having with your account team. You could also work with your partners as well. And if you already have existing relationships with software vendors, you can ask them, is your solution Azure benefit eligible, and they will help you guide through that process. And we also have a tool called the Azure Compass that you can search for it online. And that will also give you an overview of the solutions that are Azure benefit eligible. So there are multiple ways that you can approach this. The simplest one is going to the Marketplace store and filtering for and finding that solution, and then working with your partner for perhaps a private offer and engaging them for that private offer for that specific solution.
Great. Thanks, Felipe. Last question. How should we account for Marketplace SaaS versus native Azure services?
Yeah, so your Marketplace SaaS purchases will be consolidated in your Azure invoice. Those subscription purchases that you do through Marketplace are on a subscription-based model. Azure services could be different. It's also pay as you go, consume as you go. So you will see in your invoice that differentiation. You will see your Marketplace spend broken out within the invoice as a separate line item. And within the Azure portal, through the SaaS management blade in the portal, you will be able to just see that SaaS set of subscriptions within the organization and see all the information for just those subscriptions. So you can manage the renewal dates and understand what's out there and give you a single view for that Marketplace SaaS spend specifically.
Great. Okay, so I think we got through all the questions. Lots of great questions coming in today. Thanks everybody for your contributions. With that being said, I think we're ready to wrap up for today. Just wanted to remind you, if you're watching this session on demand, definitely feel free to continue the discussion on the event page. We will monitor that page to engage with you via Q&A on the actual community site as well. So again, that site for Marketplace Community is aka.ms/community/marketplace. And you can go there with your questions related to this particular event or any of our other customer office hours. So thanks everybody for joining and have a great day. Thank you.
Thank you.